Tron lives, baby. You know I had to get a little thematic with this one. I have been anticipating something new for Tron for so long, and we're not even talking about Tron Identity. Like, I've been excited for that, but Tron in general has just been in such a big drought. Just anything Tron coming out now just feels like a dream. It feels too good to be true. I had to put on my Tron hat that my wife so lovingly gave me for Christmas, celebrating the anniversary of the original film. And honestly, like, this last year Disney's been treating Tron way better than they have in the last over a decade now. We got a new roller coaster. We got a new game. We're hearing about more games coming out. Mike Bithell, the director of Tron Identity, has talked about, like, there's more projects for Tron in his future and for Tron in general, is what other reports are saying. Not necessarily saying he's working on all the projects, but he's working on some, and then reports are saying there's others in the works. It just feels like a huge resurgence for Tron. It's my favorite film of all time. Tron Legacy is just my favorite movie. I could be the most depressed I've ever been, but you stick me in front of my TV, put on some Tron Legacy, hear the Daft Punk soundtrack, and you just see the light cycle transformation. There's 100 out of 100 times there will be a smile on my face. Huge Tron fan, and not just of Legacy. I love the original Tron 1982 film as well. I have a bunch of Tron memorabilia. Not to say that, like, stuff makes you a bigger fan, but clearly I put my passion of Tron in whatever facet I can get, because we don't get a lot these days, you know? Which really does lead us to the topic of today's video, being Tron Identity. This game, honestly, I know a lot of people were caught off guard with. It's different than what a lot of people would have hoped. And I think that's fantastic. I don't know another way to say that, because we could have easily just gotten a Tron action RPG, which I hope we do get sometime, because it's a game that just makes itself. I love Tron Evolution, and I love the parkour mechanics. You put that in like an open world Breath of the Wild kind of experience, do what Sonic Frontiers did, but even better, you know, because that's not very hard, is it? I don't know. Divisive. I'm sorry. Anyway, but we're talking about a game that really was not what anyone asked for. It's a visual novel. And if you're not familiar with visual novels, it's quite simply a book that you play. You make decisions, and I think we're all accustomed to those kind of books. We grew up with, like, adventure books. I read, like, Zelda and Nintendo adventure books where you would go throughout dungeons, and it was just something that I grew up with. And so for the sake of the video, if you don't know what a visual novel is, just imagine a book that you get to make decisions on where the character goes next. You control the character, which we come to know as a disciple of Tron. And I don't want to give too many details away, because I really do feel like this game is best going in blind. If you're a Tron fan, just get it. I'm just going to say it right now. Just get the dang game. It's $15. It's on Switch. It's on Steam. And I think you owe it to yourself, if you're a fan of Tron, or if you're a fan of visual novels, if you just want something new and refreshing, pick the game up. $15 is not a huge ask in today's gaming climate, where games are pushing $70, sometimes even more if they want you to buy, like, this deluxe edition or whatever. But you play a character that is on... Man, I really don't want to give it too much away, but he's on a mission to discover a truth that happened. Before you get there, certain events take place that you're not really sure how or why they took place, but everyone's clearly very upset that these events took place. And it's your job. You're pretty much a detective. I'm going to put that out there. You're pretty much a detective that you're trying to find the truth, and you're not really supposed to intervene. But decisions can change that. And that's as much as I want to say about the story. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to say anymore, because I do feel like you owe it to yourself to go into this game blind. It is about a 3-hour playtime, and if I say too much, I feel like I could take away the experience from you. Now that's not to say it's only a 3-hour game. No, this is not a 3-hour game. You ever heard someone talk about Undertale, and ever heard them say they only played it once? How about Hades? This kind of game is meant to be replayed and enjoyed and explored. Meant to explore different routes, or you're supposed to make different decisions. I'm recording this video after my first playthrough to kind of give you my feelings and impressions over the game as it is right now. I'm not going to be able to do a full review because, one, I just don't like reviews. I don't like the stigma that I know enough to give a game a certain score. Now, I will treat this somewhat like a review and kind of give you what I like and dislike, but I'm not going to label it as such. I want you to make your own opinion. I want you to pick up the game. And I feel like that should be the highest praises I can give any game, right? Just go pick up the game. Do it for yourself. Do it just to enjoy something new. So let's get into it. What did I like about this game? The visuals, the music, and the gameplay are just phenomenal. So I've never played a visual novel before. Like I said, I've done like the choose your own adventure books. I've done like practical versions of this, but I've never done a visual novel before. So it was quite a treat, actually. It was something that I didn't really know what to expect, and I found myself just enamored by the story. And I think that's what I mean by gameplay being like so wonderful, is that if in a visual novel, from what I've learned off of this experience, if there wasn't a good story present, the gameplay is terrible, right? If there wasn't good decisions that I could make, or, bad decisions I could make that would change the course of the outcome of the ending, then it's not a great visual novel. If I were to say anything based on this one experience, because I feel like if Tron Identity didn't have a good story, didn't have compelling characters, then I wouldn't be all about it. Okay, that's kind of a lie, because I do like Tron, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be singing as high praises. I wouldn't be able to sit here and say you should buy this game if I didn't find the story in this game enticing or compelling to anyone. But the visuals, let's go to the visuals. Phenomenal. Like, it has this perfect blend of what I love about Tron Legacy with the more updated / retro look of Tron Uprising. If you're familiar with Tron Uprising, it's the show that came out shortly after Tron Legacy. It takes place in between Tron 1982 and Tron Legacy. It's about characters that are completely outside of the movies. There's some characters that overlap, obviously, but your main characters are characters that are not in the movies, and it's kind of that it's like a Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels kind of treatment, where it gives you a new cast of characters set in between major events that kind of build up to something. And I think it's a fantastic show. It's not very long either. It got canceled way too soon, but we can talk about that another time. But it has like this blend of Tron Legacy hyper streamlined colors and beautiful atmosphere with the older classical Tron with like more lines and more of like that circuit board look rather than just like neon lines cutting through everything. I hope you can kind of gather that from the video I'm displaying over this right now. But the visuals are on point. The colors they use on different characters are fantastic. We don't often get to see programs in the colors that were presented in this. We saw some deep reds, some violets, purpley kind of characters, some characters that really we don't see in the movies that we do get to see a little bit in Tron Uprising, but still not that very much. So it's nice that they expanded that visual breadth of what we could see, and let's talk about music, because Tron Legacy, a lot of people, if you don't like the film, I've never heard anyone say that they don't like the soundtrack. Daft Punk hit that out of the park. They did such a good job on that movie's soundtrack that it's a certified banger time and time again. But that being said, it's hard to live up to that when you're making a game that's supposed to envelop what's so popular about the music of Tron Legacy. And let me tell you, they do a fantastic job. The soundtrack is already out on Spotify, YouTube Music, and all that stuff. I personally just love this soundtrack. It captures it so well. I will say it's kind of repetitive because of the nature of the gameplay, and that actually made my wife kind of anxious when she was listening to it from the other room. She's like, okay, like I gotta step away, because it's like this constant rising of tension. It's like a really weird loop in some scenes where it's like, oh my gosh, the conversation is developing, characters are getting more intense, and then you kind of like make a decision and it kind of calms down, but then it gets more intense again when decisions are made, and it's really kind of, it's fun when you're playing it, but I could see why some people might not think it's exactly fun to just listen to, but it captures that Tron legacy feeling of that Daft Punk created so well. The original Tron film was, well, I can't really say it's ahead of its time, but it was revolutionary for its time. And yeah, maybe it is ahead of its time, because I feel like it got more popular as years went on. And I kind of already talked about the gameplay, but one thing I do want to mention more is that even if you aren't a fan of visual novels, I've seen a lot of people online talk about like, oh, come on, this is crap. Like, we want an actual Tron game. Give it a try. Give it a try and see what you think. Because even if you're not a fan of visual novels, I think there's a compelling story here. And I think there's a compelling cast of characters. I fell in love with a lot of, like, all the characters. I think I want to know more about each and every single one of these characters. And I think that's like the big complaint to have about this game, is that, yeah, you're meant to be replaying this, and it's more than a 3-hour game. You know, it's more than just a one playthrough of this game. But by the end of the story, I want to know more. There's characters in the ending I got that, you know, went their separate ways. We'll say that. I want to know where those characters went. I want to know where they're from, because it's very heavily talked about that there are programs and colonies of programs that we've never seen in the films. And that is so freaking interesting. I can't get over that. I want to go to these programs' city, and I want to be where they're at. I'm just going to say this. Followers of the channel will know why I get so hyped about this. But there's a pirate program. You put pirates and Tron into one thing, I'm all about it. I can't explain. Like, I need to know more about this character. And so I'm so excited to kind of focus more on that character in my next playthrough and kind of see what else I can get from that character's background and everything like that, because I need more. I need more of that character. I need more of all the characters, but that character specifically, just, oh man, I want a book. I want them to appear in the next movie. I want them to be everywhere, because pirates and Tron, oh my gosh, that's a perfect marriage. I'm just going to leave it at that for that one. But going back to like the main complaint is that, yeah, I want more. And the story ends with, at least the ending I got so far. I want to go back and obviously play some more and kind of see what endings I get that might resolve things differently. But it kind of seems like the ending is always going to take place in that kind of same vein. Like, there's going to be a core event that happens, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you play the game, that sets everything on a catalyst of decisions that like decisions you make from the very beginning, like influence a decision you like, a character's reaction to you at the end of the game. Like that's already really cool. But there's a key event that happens that will set a chain of events where, you know, you might lose someone, you know, you might part ways with someone, you might, you know, and I really, again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, but it kind of seems like, after thinking about it for a few days, that all roads lead to that last frame that's stuck in my head of your player character looking almost at the camera, and like, it seems like they're always going to be in that same spot. And come revisit this video after you've played the game, and you can kind of get what I'm saying a little bit more. But I'm sorry I'm being so vague with it, because I really do want you to play this game and discover for yourself. But that's like really the only negative thing I can talk about. It's the fact that there's a borderline cliffhanger, right? Like it's a pretty big cliffhanger. It makes you think, okay, now they have X thing. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? You know, I want to know those answers. And that's not really a bad thing. Like, it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing, because it just makes me more excited for the sequel down the line. Because, man, Bithell Games, if we don't get it, I'm coming for you. I also want to put in here real quick that another negative thing that I would have about this game, and this is actually not even related to the visual novel side of things at all, is the puzzles in the game. They didn't really do it for me. And they're completely... They're not irrelevant, but they do have they do take you away from the story in order to just kind of put some gameplay in there of some kind. And really what the gameplay of the puzzles devolves into is just going around a circle and clicking on things that it'll let you click on. And if it doesn't let you click anymore, you go back a few steps and try again. There's like suits and numbers that you're supposed to match, but really that's the weakest part of the game is the puzzles. The puzzles, it said you can skip them in my playthrough. I didn't elect to because I wanted to give them a fair shot, but really they are the weakest part of the game for me. Maybe like not, and I'm not going to say because it wasn't a challenge, because if I treated it seriously without that mentality of just like pressing buttons until it didn't let me press any more buttons, I may have found it more challenging and been more engaged. But I really just found myself wanting to get back to the story, and the puzzles really kind of deterred from my experience. But this team really had an insane task. You know, we have a new Tron roller coaster in Disney World. We're talking about multiple projects coming out. We're talking about a new movie, Tron Ares, and you know, we're talking about this thing that fans of Tron have been waiting for so long. And this is aside from the roller coaster, this is the first experience we get with a story and with characters. And I'm aware that there's some lore and story behind the light cycle run. But I haven't been on that ride yet, so I can't really speak to that. Hopefully soon. But anyways, going back to Tron Identity, this team had a task of bringing Tron back into your focus, right? They had a task of putting it's on Steam and Switch, putting Tron on those platforms with all these games out, and I'm seeing people buzz about it and talk about it. They accomplished their task, right? So no matter what the ratings of critics what they might say about this game, they accomplished their task of making, in my opinion, a fantastic game that really put Tron back on the map. That is not something that's easily done. If Tron Legacy wasn't a banger, I don't think we would have gotten more Tron. It took them 30 years, and we're already almost, what is it, 2009? We're 14 years since Tron Legacy. That's insane to think that, as dedicated and as passionate as this fan base is, we're still, waiting for more Tron. And I'm glad that we finally got some, you know? And that's why I opened the video with Tron Lives, because that's the community's hashtag. Tron Lives. It's alive. You'd have to watch the movie if you don't understand. But it makes it Tron lives on, you know? So even if it's not exactly your game, even if it's not something you're particularly interested in, if you're a Tron fan, pick it up. You won't regret it. It may not be your favorite format of video game, but man, is it a treat? Is the story phenomenal? And I think that's what it comes down to. The game is worth $15 to me. If I were to leave you with anything at the end of this video, it's that the game is $15 for 3 hours of playtime. You take in my area, an average salary is about $15 an hour. So you turn 1 hour of work into 3 hours of enjoyment. I think that's a fantastic investment as far as your quality time, your fun time, right? You only get so many hours in the day. So is those 3 hours worth it? A movie ticket's about $15, and that's about a 2-hour experience. So I think that even if you only do play this once, it's a fantastic pickup. It's a great game. It has a great story, and you should play it. And I think I'm just gonna go play it again right now. I have some time. My wife's not home right now, so I think I'm gonna go play some Tron Identity. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit rambly, but I'm getting back into it and everything like that. But I really appreciate you bearing with me. And if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And if you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, I'll